entitled "Lady Gets What She Deserves After Assaulting Me and Triggering a PTSD Episode." Satisfying ending. This is my first time posting, so if I do something incorrectly, let me know and please be gentle. I'm also on my mobile, so formatting could be wonky for all I know. I am a busy mom, so it may not be able to edit in a timely manner. Sorry in advance. Trigger warning: PTSD and mention of I do not elaborate on that assault as it isn't social media friendly, obviously. Bottom cast: me, just me. EP entitled person/parent. AE, actual employee. Support cast: security, vet cop, cousin cop, hunty, and AP's kid. Context: this is the experience of a time I was just done with people for the day, and it got really messy. For work I had to dress in upscale business attire with some antiquated ideas on ladies' wear, like you must wear heels and nylons. I'd do any shopping or errands on my way home from work. It was years ago, so it will not be verbatim. Obviously, I don't have an eidetic memory. Story: that day had been a long one due to my, literally, crazy boss. So while I was shopping, I had two people already ask me for help. It was an upscale mall and I was dressed similarly to the store managers. The first two were polite and apologized for the honest mistake, and I was jovial about it since they were so nice. But this is the encounter, to the best of my recollection, with the third person, yet the third in under 15 minutes. I was walking away from the shoes to the ladies' lingerie area, as I was shopping for nylons, when the dreaded "excuse me" happened. EP, excuse me. Me, knowing what's happening and what the tone meant. What kind of person probably barked so rudely and relatively loud, especially in a high-end department store? I was completely done with all personal interactions for the day, but especially one that could be draining. So, of course I ignore EP, pretending I didn't hear her. EP, strident and very loudly now, moving much closer. Excuse me. Me, she was setting me off already by being too close, and now I was whining in my head. So I sighed quite audibly, on purpose. I turn around and say, "Yes. EP, you're the manager. Where is XYZ?" No, I don't remember what it was she was looking for exactly, and I really didn't care, to be honest. Me, I don't know. Man cuts me off before I can finish with the "I don't work here" thing. EP, well you should. I'm a frequent and loyal customer, so, and I kid you not, the woman shooed me away. She was all indignant, wanting me to go find out ASAP. Me, just blinking at her. EP, well, go find out already. Shouting directly in my face with spittle to boot. Me, ma'am, I don't work here, with a dead-eyed expression. No, I didn't even care enough to expound upon that. EP, well, I never. You're the rudest employee I've ever encountered. Get, snap your, snap boss, snap. Me, frustrated and not caring anymore, cause she now had shooed and snapped her fingers at me. I'm not an employee, so I'm not going to do anything but continue my own shopping. You should be ashamed of yourself for your inexcusable behavior. EP, confused but going with it, sure, you aren't. She said sarcastically. Just go find out. I'm running late and I need XYZ. Me, ma'am, I still don't work here. I turn and take off. By the way, the employees at this store would never walk away from a shopper or be rude. Not ever. I can hear her getting even more aggravated as I leave, but I don't care. She was rude. As I'm looking at the display of hose in the lingerie section to find the correct ones, which takes a few minutes as they aren't plentiful, I needed toeless ones for open-toed pumps, and they rearranged it since the last time I was here. I hear more screeching. EP, there she is, pulling AE behind her with just the magnetic force of her displeasure. I don't turn, just knowing this is going to get ugly with the mood I'm now in. AE looks confused and a lot worried. Dumb, I think there's been a EP. I want that manager's name and her boss now. She will be fired immediately. And give me corporate's number. This is disgraceful. So I slowly turn around. I should warn that while I'm normally very tolerant and love to help older people who need it especially, I greatly dislike stupid, racist or loudly ignorant people, and I have a temper. EP stepped into my space. Again, I let loose, yelling in EP's face. I hate that for good reason. Me? Man, very obviously sarcastic. For the last time, I do not work here. I step away and turn around again, trying to calm myself and avoid a catastrophe. It's silent. Legit, only the classical music they play in the background. I'm desperately trying to find the nylons quickly so I can get the items and get the heck out of there ASAP. Desperately trying to control my temper. I see them and grabbed all they had, like 5. I don't know, didn't even check them to ensure they were correct sizes. That's when it happened, that's when it all went to crap. EP grabs my arm, pinching it hard as her hand slips on my silk blouse. I bruise easily, so it ended up being a huge doozy later. She grabbed me so hard she pulled the seam on the sleeve. I think I still have it in the back of my closet. I never did wear it again, so I'm not positive. What AP didn't know that escalated the situation drastically was, I have extreme PTSD from being by a gang, and any grabbing of my arms from behind me is a major and usually very violent trigger. I instantly flashback. Sorry, this is hard for me to recount, as even now I shake when thinking about it or the attack. This next part hubby told me since he watched the security tapes later. I dropped my items, jerked my arm away, backed up into as good of a corner as I could and started screaming in a panic. Me? No, don't touch me. I slid down the wall at my back with my hands over my ears. I've gone into freeze and hide mode and repeated, no 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 no. EP then made the mistake of moving closer again in an aggressive manner. I remember some of this part. I looked up into her malicious face and went straight into fight mode, standing up abruptly and into her face screaming aggressively. Me? No, you don't get to hurt me. I'm not entirely present yet, but know something's off as there are no men near me. This is a huge lucky break because any men near me at that moment would have immediately made me go berserk and attack. I'm still in my aggressive stance but started saying something along the lines of just leave me alone, go away, and more no. EP backed up and I imagine she thought I was some crazy person, and she would have been correct right then. Somehow AE knew I wasn't entirely there and traumatized somehow. My pupils were probably blown wide, and with the automatic sobbing my mascara was likely already streaked down my cheeks. Hubby said I looked haunted when he picked me up later as I was too distraught to drive home. AE calmed me down a little as I noticed I wasn't being attacked at that moment. That's when security arrived to see us still sobbing, shaking, firmly on the throes of the panic attack from the flashback, an adrenaline-crazed person. Problem: security was all male. Back into the flashback I go, screaming and freaking out violently. I know they took EP away at some point, and I hazily remember AE sitting on the floor cross-legged nearby but not too close. She was talking to me in soothing tones, but I don't remember what was said. For all I know, she was repeating supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or some alien language. I wouldn't let anyone else anywhere near me. I was too hysterical, crying. I was starting to realize, in relief, it was a flashback only, and became more and more embarrassed and horrified. AE got me to give her my phone to call my ICE contact, hubby. He told me later he explained what likely happened and told them to put him on speaker. He started doing his "You Are Safe" routine and was on his way. That's what really got me out of the episode enough to start letting them help me, at a distance of course. We all ended up in the back offices as they called EMTs because I was in shock, was white. I'm very pale, but bloodless is a different kind of pale, and my heart rate went bonkers and almost fainted. I got my meds out of my purse, took it and waited as the EMTs came and did their job. The cop who was with me was a war vet and knew exactly what was going on, how to not set me off, what to ask, etc. EP was in a different area and was still going insane about the psychotic employee who attacked her and all sorts of threats. So when hubby got there, he heard what she was yelling and told the cops he knew I would want to press charges on anyone who grabbed me and treated me like that. Turns out that another cop, over with EP, was a distant cousin of my hubby, same last name from the same great-grandfather or something. They talked a bit outside the room and I guess EP overheard that he was my hubby. She tried to blame my hubby for my PTSD attack as he must have abused me. Hubby disabused that notion by laying down some facts explaining why I freaked out, what happened to me, that I was a minor at the time and that it was before we met. Hubby says he also called her an idiotic hag as he left. All the info shut her up temporarily but didn't stop her entirely. Hubby came in to comfort me and help me. Police finally asked once I was calm enough if I wanted to press charges, and I did, of course. They had already seen the recordings from security by that point, so only needed me to tell them what happened and to confirm why I freaked out. EP was told she was being arrested and started up the banshee screaming again. The store manager said he would be banning her for her behavior indefinitely. At some point during that, EP's kid, a teenage girl, showed up frantic looking for her mom. Mall security had escorted her and made quite the ruckus. I felt bad for the kid and saw her as she waited for her dad with security when we were escorted out into the public part of the store. EP kept up the "I'm innocent and this is a misunderstanding" and threatening me for doing this to her all the way until court, supposedly. I really thought I would have to testify for a while, which was very stressful. The prosecutor's office called me a couple months later to tell me she was taking the deal after the CCTV footage and the photographic proof of the ripped shirt and progress of the huge bruise she gave me was shown to her. It was a bad case that would be expensive to fight for her to only lose with that evidence. She was a first-time offender, so she got the option to do a program where they do intensive personal and subgroup psychotherapy, anger management, rehab, support groups, community service and such depending on the offenses. If completed, the record gets wiped clean. She took it in as part of the deal. She had to plead guilty in court, in front of the judge beforehand. So no testifying about it and my previous assault in open court. I was very grateful for that. One last bit of justice happened though. Her work found out, and due to a clause in her contract they fired her immediately. Found out about that from the prosecutor, too. Haven't heard about her since. Never bothered to check up on her as she did her sentence and wasn't important. By the way, I still hate hosiery, and this wasn't the only time someone grabbed me in public and I freaked out on them. Most recently was this last summer. Also, sorry it's so very long. I tried to trim it down without taking out too much of the needed info. And to anyone worried, I do still go to therapy, support groups, etc., and have since the gang assault happened 20 years ago. You don't get over something like this, but I'm managing pretty well for the most part. Edit. This was in the greater PHX metro area and it happened over a dozen years ago, so I'm doing much better for those concerned. I could get a service dog for crowding, but they are expensive and insurance doesn't like to cover them if they aren't for the blind. I've had a lot of time to recover, so the need isn't there as much for it to justify the costs, and then there's the fact that I'm allergic to dogs. I used symbols on the censored words, to not trigger bots, or cause it to be removed for review and for my personal well-being. I'm keeping it that way for those who write in places, that those words would jump off the page, and for all those who are survivors like me, as I don't want them to be triggered by the words as well. FYI, writing this took a lot emotionally and just putting it in text was very blatant. I didn't need to add to that. This has been cathartic though. Thank you. You guys are awesome and so supportive. For whoever gave me awards, you are the best. I don't know what some of them mean as I'm still relatively new to Reddit, but I'll figure it out. TLDR lady didn't listen to me, triggered violent flashback PTSD episode, got arrested, blamed me, then took a deal that required her to plead guilty and get serious professional help. AKA, she got hoisted on her own petard and it exploded.